Thank you for this day. We thank you for the privilege that it is to come together and to worship you. And we are here because we love you. We are here because you've been gracious and good to us, and we want to praise you. And we also want to learn about things you are doing all over the world. And we're so thankful for Larry and the work that he's been doing for the last 13 years in a difficult part of the world. And we lift he and Sue and their family up as they continue to grieve the loss of our good friend Chet. And Lord, I just pray for Larry's work. Pray you keep him and his team safe. And we pray for peace in that part of the world. We pray for justice. We pray that people who are intent on doing evil would be removed from power, and that people who love justice and love people would be put in their place. And we ask those things in our precious Savior's name. Larry always tries to get home this time of the year. Came back. There we go. Man, I sound good. Came back early because of the death of his father, Chet. And it's good to have you home.
Thank you. I just want to thank all the love and support that my Central family gave to my mom and my brother and sister and I for the passing of the greatest man I ever knew. Sorry. So thank you. Thought Carl conducted the most beautiful funeral ceremony I've ever been witnessed. And I thank him for that. And Dad looked great. He looked at peace, and that look gave Mom and my brother and sister I guess a sense of peace ourselves that he was in a better place and he wasn't suffering anymore. Thank you.
If any of you, I know many of you were not able to make the funeral. If you were, there was a picture that I showed. Chet actually received the Father of the Year one year when Larry was playing football, and we talked about how much Chet enjoyed going up and going to practices and to games, and what a great story just of your dad's support for you, and it was an honor to do this. It was an easy funeral to do because he's a good man. In spite of the fact that he's a Buckeye, he's still a good man. So we are, I wanted to let all of you know, this is going to be a pretty serious service, hard stuff to talk about, but I wanted to start by just letting you know that we are in the presence of football greatness. Larry played for the premier football program in the state of Ohio, the Bowling Green Falcons. And I did some research, and I found an old program, and there he is. Do you recognize that guy?
No.
Just barely. Let's start by just giving like an overview of Myanmar. And it's a part of here's a map. You can see the countries that surround it. I'm going to recite a few facts that I just discovered, that I just learned recently, and you're going to correct me. So this is a little bit of a quiz. Myanmar is a country of about 50 million people. There are 130 different languages in Myanmar and more dialects beyond that, so it's a hard country to unify. It won its independence from Britain in 1948, and ever since then, it's been controlled by a series of military dictatorships until the last 10 to 20 years, right?
Last 10 years.
Last 10 years. It's one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia.
It's even more poor now.
Yeah, and last year, Larry talked about the number of refugees that are in Myanmar. What's happened with that number since you were here a year ago?
Well, the number of refugees didn't really increase too much. There's over 1 million refugees from a major civil war back in 1995. But since the coup 2 years ago, it's the IDPs, which aren't identified as refugees because the IDPs means internally displaced people.
So it'd be like if something bad were happening here and we took off and went to Kansas. We're still in the country, but we're away from our homes, and
right.
So that's happening in like 3 million people.
So there's over 3 million in the past 2 years that are displaced throughout the jungles and mountains of Burma, trying to survive in the jungle.
Another number that I heard, and this was about a year and a half old, is that there were 14 million people in Myanmar in desperate need of humanitarian relief. And of that group, there were 5 million children, which is, if I recall my number, roughly the size of LA. To give you a sense of what's going on there. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. Let's talk about, there were some questions yesterday about current conditions in Myanmar and what's happening kind of politically now. It's kind of important to understand that in order to understand the type of work that Larry and Free Burma Rangers are doing. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Kathy. So tell us a little bit. So the woman that you see there is Suu Kyi. Tell me about her history with Myanmar.
Her father was the general of the army during World War II. He was elected to be the first president of Burma in 1948 and was assassinated by a political rival like 2 weeks before he was supposed to become initiated as the first president. And then Aung San Suu Kyi was about 7 years old when that happened, and she went on to become a devout promoter of democracy, and it drove the generals crazy, and she was eventually imprisoned for 15 to 20 years until 2010 when they had another election.
Yeah, so she was elected to power for I think it's a 21 year span there, and 15 of those under house arrest.
Correct.
And then what's happened recently there? The last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Well, in February 2021, Suu Kyi and her won another landslide election, and at the time they gave her there was the election before that she won, and they considered it a democracy, but it wasn't because the military has control of the country, but they let her take care of the local politics.
So, and when he says a landslide, it's like 90% of the vote. And the way Myanmar is set up politically is that the military has lots and lots of power and can basically veto anything she wants to do. And like you were saying yesterday, like after she was elected this most recent time, her party won a lot of seats in parliament, and the very next day the military went out and arrested all the people who'd been elected and have seized power and are just brutal.
Imprisoned them. They're still in prison. Been in prison for 2.5 years.
And these pictures are from the AP site, Associated Press, and the one with the general there is just within the last couple of weeks. Myanmar Army leader calls for decisive action to crush foes. And the foes are basically everyone in Myanmar.
All the citizens of Burma. But Min Aung Hlaing has been the dictator for about 10 years. And he was turning 67 at the point of this new election. And Myanmar had a law that says you forced retirement at 67. So he was turning 67, but he was going to go into politics. He wanted to, and there's a political party. The military has their own political party, but he needed enough votes, a certain percentage of votes, for him to run for prime minister. And they got, as Carl said, it was a landslide election again. He was not going to get the run for prime minister, and he refused to step down. He's just a horrible man.
So like one thing I read is in just the last few years, I mean, tens of thousands of people have been murdered, tens of thousands of people have been imprisoned, and millions of people displaced. Let's move, I think this is a good point to move specifically to talking about what Free Burma Rangers are. So let's go to the next slide, Kathy, and go to the one beyond this. There we go. Free Burma Rangers, this is from their website, is a multi-ethnic humanitarian service movement working to bring help, hope, and love to people in the conflict zones of Burma, Iraq, and Sudan. Most of their work is in Burma, and this is one of the most unique organizations I have ever become acquainted with. And part of their mission is to go places in the world where no one else will go. So they are going to some of the most dangerous places in the world. And it's an interest, the whole organization that was founded by a guy named Dave Eubanks. We're going to see a video where he introduces his family here in just a moment. But Dave Eubanks grew up on the mission field, was an MK, was a major in an Army Ranger.
Army Special Forces.
Special Forces, came home, saw what was happening, and eventually started this organization to humanitarian relief. So part of the work they do is like documenting human rights atrocities, providing humanitarian aid. There's also an evangelistic component, especially focused on children. So they're doing these good life clubs in the heart of Myanmar or Burma. There's one video we were not able to show this morning. I think we can show it tonight. But they're actually doing one of these good life clubs, which is kind of like our vacation Bible school, and bombs begin to fall. And you see all the children run, and then they kind of pull the kids back, and they go on with the good life club as bombs are falling nearby and people are being killed. And it's just hard for us to get our heads around things happening like that. Let's go ahead and watch the video so you can meet the Eubanks family, and we'll kind of... You need to unmute them on the sound.
It's possible for us to give people help, hope, and love in Jesus' name.
Hi, this is Karen. I'm reminded in Proverbs it says a joyful heart is good medicine. So thank you so much for praying for the children to have joy and peace to overcome their fear, and for praying for all the healthcare professionals in their clinics. In Jesus' name.
Hello, my name is Sahaley. Thank you for all your prayers, support, and love, and we can't wait to see you all this summer. Hi, my name is Suzanne, and thank you so much for praying and supporting these people.
Hi, my name is Peter. This is my monkey Winnie, and please continue to pray for the people of Karenni State, Burma.
Thank you for making all this possible in Jesus' name. We and our teams have baptized hundreds of people in spite of this horrible dictatorship. The last 2 years of the coup especially, over 3 million displaced, thousands killed, yet many people coming to the Lord. And we have the opportunity because of y'all to give food, medicine, clothes, shelter, trucks, x-ray machines. You know, every single hospital up here in Karenni State's been bombed, every one of them, but they haven't given up. And we've been able to help every one of them because of y'all. So I just say, wow, God, really? Thank you. And thank you all for loving us. And we hope we can see you somewhere in the world when we're not in Burma. And if you ever come to other places, our home, hammocks, tents are yours. God bless you, and Free Burma!
Rangers!
Free church family!
Rangers!
God bless you all in Jesus' name.
So it's fair to say Dave is kind of a unique guy.
Yes. He's the most unique man I've ever met in my life.
Go to the next slide, and let's talk a little bit about how Free Burma Rangers is kind of arranged. They had about $9 million in revenue last year, and their administrative costs are very low. The vast majority of the money goes directly to relief work. and they're evaluated by some agencies that cover nonprofits, and it's a lean organization in terms of overhead. It's kind of the Burbank family, and then let's kind of walk through this. There are 20 to 25 Burmese or Thai people kind of running the office.
Well, they're part of it. They're half of our staff.
So about half of the staff. Half of the staff are American volunteers, like Larry. So Larry's support does not go through Free Burma Rangers. The way Free Burma Rangers is set up, people volunteer to work with them. They raise their own support, and then they volunteer with FBR. So our support as a church goes directly to Larry, and he's been doing this work for about 13 years on oftentimes less than $1,000 a month are all of his expenses, salary, living. So it's amazing all that you accomplish on a really lean budget. And I think it's an appropriate point to just thank Larry for living in the conditions that he's been living in. And he does not want your sympathy for living there. He loves it. So one thing that comes really clear in talking, he absolutely loves the people of, I'm going to say Burma, because that's it. There's some, it's, what is the, like Burma and Myanmar? Myanmar is the official name, more recent name.
Well, it was always Burma. It was Burma for 1,000 years.
Okay. So we'll go old school and keep calling it Burma.
So, and the ethnics, there's 40% of the population of Burma are ethnics, part of the 130 dialects and groups, and 60% are Burmans who are more of the professionals and the doctors, lawyers, students, professors. So there's a divide between the two, and the ethnics call them Burma because that's who they were. The reason the military changed the name to Myanmar because it was in August of 1988 there was a protest for democracy, and the military got tired of them protesting and gunned down about 10,000 of them in the streets of the capital. And so they got a really bad reputation, and they thought if they changed the name, the world would forget about what they did. That's the only reason it was changed.
So there are 20 to 25 Burmese people who are working at the office. There are about 25 American volunteers. And then they support 80 teams that are composed of about 1,000 Burmese nationals who are actually doing the kind of frontline work. And these are people, many of them are good friends of Larry's. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. Let's go to the next slide. And this is basically from their website, and it's a description of the main things that they do. So they provide frontline relief. They monitor human rights atrocities, and Larry writes up reports that go to the media, that go to the State Department, trying to shed a light on what's happening. And one of the big challenges is the world is pretty much ignoring what's happening in Burma.
Yes.
So there's lots of emphasis on what's happening in Ukraine, as there should be, but we just kind of turn our eyes to Burma because it's in a part of the world that we're not as concerned about. There are people who don't look like us. There's just an indifference to their plight. And a big part of Larry's work, especially not the last couple of years, was documenting all of these atrocities. There's a jungle school of medicine. They run these good life clubs. They work toward building ethnic unity. They're peacemakers, which is what Jesus calls us to be. They have an aviation program, and they train people in survival skills. So they're basically trying to equip these people who are running for their lives and are being bombed and are being shot. They're training them how to live in the jungle and avoid being killed. So we're going to kind of walk through these. We're not going to cover all of them, but let's go to, let's talk a little bit about frontline relief. What does frontline relief work look like?
Well, for the past 70 years, the Burma military has attacked and tried to wipe out all the ethnic groups in Burma. And so when they come under attack, the relief teams that we train are kind of like special forces teams, that everybody has a different job. Like you got a team leader, you got medics, you got communications, you got security people, you got Good Life Club leaders, and so everybody has a job. You have reporting officers who I trained for so many years, and so these teams. We do a big training every fall, and our next one is starting in October. And so every year we train anywhere from 100 to 200 new relief teams.
Does that happen in Myanmar, or does it happen in?
It happens in Burma.
Burma?
Yes.
Or Thailand, yeah, okay.
That happens in Burma. And we have one of the generals of the Karen population after a certain amount of time, gave Dave a swath of land to conduct these trainings.
So let's clarify something. You said a Karen general. So there are the Myanmar generals who are inflicting all the atrocities,
right.
And then is there also like a revolutionary army that's?
Well, that's a bad word to use.
Well, help me learn the right one.
All the ethnic groups, or all the major ethnic groups, have always had their own military arm, and they've always had a political arm. They lived their lives in the jungles and the mountains, taking care of themselves. But the military, the military of the country, the dictators, were always trying to wipe them out. They called them terrorists, but they were the Karen were part of the army that helped them get their independence in 1948. So they've always been part of the.
So there's a corrupt military that are killing people, and then there are the general population who are just trying to survive. Let's go to the next slide. And the next slide, this is one I put in here about human rights and conflict monitoring. And this slide is intended to look like this. If you go to their website or if you go to their Facebook page, there are dozens and dozens of images that are so graphic and so horrible that they block them out. You have to go through a couple clicks to actually see them. And I think it's important that we see them. And we're not going to show them this morning, but I think it's important that we be aware of of what's happening there. And some of the photos are just absolutely as horrific as anything you would see from our memories of ISIS, as horrific as the worst things you've ever heard of. And it absolutely breaks your heart to see them. And pictures of children who've been killed, and it's just hard stuff to even be aware of. And I can't imagine the toll that it's taken on you, Larry, just seeing all of that and collecting that evidence. It's hard. It's hard to look at. And what has it been like for you processing that information and then getting it out to the rest of the world?
It's very difficult and very hard to talk about. I don't understand how any human can treat another human so horribly. So the torture, the burning of people alive, the rapes, just mutation of human bodies for no reason other than the military just walks into these village camps and they're bamboo villages, and they're dropping bombs on bamboo houses and huts. And
you said they're targeting like hospitals, schools, churches.
They don't target the armed groups anymore, the armed ethnic groups, because they were getting beat. So they try to scare the population of the groups and bomb the churches, schools, hospitals, anything that's, the villages themselves. And they're all war crimes, international war crimes. One of those acts is an international war crime, and it's happening every day all over Burma. And the carnage that you see from the bombs is horrific, but what gets me the most is the brutality that the individual soldiers will do to the headman of a village or a pregnant wife or kids. It's hard to live with.
One of the programs they have is a jungle school of medicine. And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've always had medical training as part of our ranger training, and but one of our American doctors had always wanted to set up a school itself, a jungle school, to do more involved in intensive training. And so 8 years ago, he got the support from other doctors in the U.S., and they built a actual bamboo hospital and a training school. And so every year since then, they've been training about 25 to 30 ethnic new medics and nurses, and some of the guys are talented enough that they could do the work of doctors. And villagers come from all over. They'll walk days to get to our training camp in the middle of the jungle.
Do they manage the vaccination program?
Yes.
Okay, so a few years ago, as a church, we had an internal situation we were kind of working through as a congregation together, and decided that if we're going to be a church that follows Jesus, we need to be spending our resources on people other than ourselves. And we committed $50,000 to at-risk children. $25,000 of that was spent here in Springfield. $25,000 was committed to this vaccination program that Free Burma Rangers are doing. So we've been able to provide a series of vaccinations against preventable, life-threatening diseases for about 500 children. And we have released 20,000 of that 25,000. And our board voted this week to release another 2,500. There's 5,000 remaining, and we're releasing 2,500 to go back with you. And I wish there were a lot more. That'll provide vaccinations for about 60 more kids.
This is a big help because the mortality rate of children under 5 years old, or to live to the age of 5, is like it's the worst country in the world for having children just passing away from communicable diseases that that you and I we grew up with, and
well, thank you for helping us get that there, and it's an honor to be able to do that. And I'm just so proud of the people who are actually out putting their lives in danger, getting these vaccines to kids.
It means a lot to the people.
I think my next slide is of a Good Life Club. Not going to go in. Let's not spend a lot of time here because we've talked about this before. We have some videos we'll show at 4 this afternoon when all of you come back for pizza and for some Q&A. But this is an evangelistic program and a Bible club program like Kids Central, only in a jungle. And they do an amazing job. There's some wonderful video of the kids singing. And again, there's a heartbreaking video of a scene just like this, where very nearby you hear bombs hit the ground, you can see the planes flying overhead, and the kids all run, and then they just pull them back together and continue with their Good Life Club.
But the Good Life Club is being a ranger and going on these. I've been on many missions inside Burma, and it's the most fun part of being on the mission is when we do the Good Life Clubs for the kids. We're singing and dancing and playing games and passing out Good Life Club shirts and snacks and food, and it's just it's really a heartwarming feeling to see these kids are so that they've been under attack ever since they were born, but they come together for an afternoon and sing and dance and act like they're having the time of their lives, and they forget all about.
And there are people living in refugee camps who have been there for over 20 years because they can't go back into Burma. Other countries won't accept them. So there's a refugee camp, roughly the population of Columbus, with people who spent 25 years living in those conditions. It's hard to imagine. I was reading a story, I'm going to reference it later, but about some people going into the jungle, and they actually had to cross a road near a Burmese military. Should I call them Myanmar? Should I call the other military Myanmar, the bad guys?
Sure.
Okay. The group that are committing the atrocities, but they actually had to sneak across a road one at a time in the dark of night to get to the place where they're doing the Good Life Club and doing some of these things.
I've done that before.
And you've done that. Go to the next slide. Talk about the survival training that you do. And I don't know if this is a Good Life Club activity or survival training, but I like the picture. So
This is part of the annual training we do every year for the new Rangers. So we, although they've lived their lives in the jungle, we give them jungle survival skills like rope climbing and swimming. Most of them don't swim. So swimming's a big part of our training, the rope bridges. So we give them the survival, even though we don't act as soldiers, and most of the time we don't carry weapons. They're trained on how to survive better than they did when they were growing up.
And that's where FBR is a fascinating organization, is that they are working side by side with people who are targeted to be killed, and right at the very front line of where that's happening. Which is a good segue to the next slide. This is a picture of Vittorio, who is one of the Rangers who was killed just this year. On the Free Burma Rangers website, there's a section called In Memoriam, and there have been nearly 60 people killed doing this work, some of them among Larry's dearest and closest friends. And it's this last year there have been more injuries and fewer fatalities. The year before there were 17 of Larry's co-workers and Rangers who were killed.
But we're only halfway through the year.
But we're only halfway, yeah. So we need to be praying. We need to be praying for these teams. We need to be praying for their safety. Larry, I can't thank you enough for the work you do. And I think that when we get to heaven and see who the heroes are, it's not going to be it's not going to include a lot of pastors. It's not going to include lots of Christian celebrities. It's going to include people who have sacrificed for the needs of others. And
I love what I do. It's the most satisfying, rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. I love those people, and I plan on taking my last breath in Southeast Asia somewhere. And it'll be probably in the jungle.
our time is about up this morning. We're going to continue this conversation. There's a sign-up sheet in the back, and we're going to provide pizza. Come back at 4. We'll be able to show some more videos. We actually didn't get to one video we were going to show. Let me talk about some ways you can stay connected with Free Burma Rangers and with the work that Larry does. Go to the next slide. I'm going to go through 4 of them. One is their website, and we're going to send, if we have your email, if you're in our church database, we're going to send you an email that has direct links to each one of these. So they have a great website that has lots of information. They have a Facebook page. The Facebook page on the next slide is probably the best place to find videos and pictures and the most current information about what's happening there. So I would encourage you to go to the site and to like it on Facebook if you're on Facebook, and go through and watch some of the videos, look at some of the pictures, and I would encourage you to look at some of the pictures that are hard to look at, because I think it's important that we see the evil that's happening there. The other thing is, go to the next slide. There is a recent Rolling Stone article on Dave Eubanks and on Free Burma Rangers. I think it was this year. It's the last couple of months. Fascinating article. It's a feature article. You can click on it and listen to it. It's about an hour long if you listen to the article, but very insightful and troubling and hard, but will help you understand the conditions that Larry and Free Burma Rangers are facing. And it's actually a very, you can tell that the writer of the article just can't get Dave Eubanks and can't figure out his faith. But it's a very favorable article about the work that's happening over there. I would encourage you to read that. And is there one more? I thought I had one more thing. Yeah, there's a Free Burma Rangers movie. And if you can get this on Amazon Prime, you can rent it for about $8 and watch it at home. You can buy a copy for $20. I think we have one copy here at the church we can loan out. This is an excellent movie, documentary, very powerful. And I would encourage you, if you haven't already seen it, rent it online or borrow the church copy and watch it and become more acquainted. And then the other great way to learn more is to come back tonight. So I want to really kind of hammer that point. Larry, thank you so much. Let me give you a hug, and then you can sit down.
Thank you.
Larry, why don't you go ahead and head to the back there, because I know people are going to want to greet you after the service, and I'll say a closing prayer. Actually, let me say a prayer with you right down here front. Father, we thank you for Larry. Thank you for the work that he does. Thank you for his love for people. Thank you for his willingness to put his life at risk to serve others. Lord, I thank you for all those who are on his team. Lord, there are perhaps 1,000 people in the jungles right as we meet this morning whose lives are at risk, and we ask for their safety and their protection, and Father, we cry out for justice. We cry out for peace in our world. We long for the kingdom of heaven to come to pass, and I pray that the power of the kingdom of heaven would break through in Burma and provide relief to the people who are there. And Lord, we know that some of the people who are there are brothers in Christ and sisters in Christ. Lord, our hearts ache for them. We know that there are families grieving the loss of loved ones, and we cry out for justice and deliverance and salvation, and we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.